February. Joining us right now is Financial Services Chairman, Congressman Jeb Hensarling. And thanks for being here today.
No, good morning. Thanks for having me.
What do you think the odds are of, A, this vote actually taking place in the Senate, and B, it passing?
Well, I've known Leader McConnell for many, many years. He's never broken his word to me before, so hopefully this will not be the start.
First, right.
This will not be the first. So I'm expecting the vote. I'm disappointed it didn't happen before the election, but it may be to our benefit that it happens afterwards. I just want it to happen. Again, it was a very strong vote. Historically, these capital formation bills have had strong bipartisan support. I do recall that I've learned many things in my 16 years in Congress, one of which is never underestimate the Senate's ability to do nothing. So far, they have done nothing on it, but I am convinced they will do something at least after the election. And it's important. I mean, we have a great economy today, but I'm concerned about the economy of tomorrow. And again, if you look at entrepreneurship, small business startups, IPOs, we have a lot to do to ensure that, is your previous segment with Alan Greenspan, that, again, creative destructionism works, that kind of the whole entrepreneurship in our DNA comes forward, and public policy has been part of our problem.
What do you think just about the premise of the book? Chairman Greenspan, Alan and Adrian's book, the whole premise is that we have lost our edge. We had this ability and this desire, this appetite for creative destruction that allowed us to gain preeminence in the world. Do you think we still have that, or do you think there are areas where we are not as strong on that as we used to be?
Well, I think public policy matters, and I think that, unfortunately, there is probably too much risk aversion. I mean, ultimately, people have to take risk. I think in America today, in our garages, we have too many old cars and not enough new startups. So I don't think necessarily our DNA changes, but listen, I'm in public policy. Public policy matters.
Well, the thrust of his book was that it's the size of our entitlement spending at this point is what's causing us to no longer be able to have the productivity necessary to do the creative destruction. Should we be surprised, though? I mean, we see how, for 50 years, how Europe has grown, and they're much larger in terms of entitlements than we are here. So as we head towards there, and in a society, as you know, it's 2018, we want to give as much as, we're a rich country. I mean, entitlements seem like the right thing to do, but not in the long term necessarily if you don't do them right or if you don't pay for them right. Well,
indeed, if you looked at the 8 years of the Obama administration, you could make a case that we were essentially morphing into a European-style social democracy, so we should not be surprised that we get commensurate economic returns from that. Clearly, we've seen a turnaround last 2 years, but it's not just the entitlements. Huge problem. We could talk about that for a long time, but it's also kind of the regulatory avalanche. And if you go to any boardroom of any financial services industry service company in America, they will tell you how much time they spend on compliance versus doing the risk-taking and the strategic planning necessary in order to grow their businesses. So, yes, we have a huge entitlement spending problem. Ultimately, there's only one way to deal with the federal debt. Economic growth is helpful, but it would take double-digit economic growth for almost a generation to grow way out.
Point made on regulatory oversight being pulled back. But you said in the last 2 years we've turned that around on entitlements. That is not something the Trump administration has any interest in taking.
Well, no, I didn't mean to say we have turned it around on entitlements. What I'm saying is we have turned the economy around. Okay. I mean, for many Americans, this is obviously the strongest economy they have seen in their lifetimes. But unfortunately, no, the entitlement explosion that will occur one day is still out there. It's the most foreseeable crisis in America's history. And I must admit, as I get ready myself to leave Congress, if you had several hours, I'd tell you about all my disappointments. But the number one disappointment I have is my inability to convince a sufficient number of my colleagues and, frankly, a sufficient number of my fellow citizens of the peril we face by not addressing this debt. I mean, my iPad is awash of reports saying it is unsustainable. We know it. We have to reform current entitlement programs for future generations. There's no other solution.
Paul Ryan might agree with you on that point. I know that it's been something he's been concerned about for a lot of years.
Well, there's no might. He does agree.
We used to look at it and say we could fix these things with minor changes, minor tweaks. Maybe you increase the retirement age by half a year, down to a year, down to 2 years down the road. What would it take now?
Well, every year we put it off. Frankly, it gets more difficult. It does get more expensive. But the public policy solutions are really the same. And I give Speaker Ryan great credit for he has normalized the idea of premium support in Medicare. There's no more important idea in entitlement spending reform than premium support in Medicare. In your previous segment, I think Dr. Greenspan was speaking about age indexing for Social Security. I mean, as you know, when Social Security was first created, the average lifespan of a male, I believe, was like 60. No, it was actually 60 or 61, and you couldn't get benefits until 65.
Where do you
I mean, a great deal for the government. And so, as obviously age spans have increased, the math simply isn't
Where do you
working.
land on means testing?
I believe means testing is part of the solution. I would put that into the package. Listen, I'm a veteran of Simpson Bowles and the Less Than Super Committee. Regrettably, 2 failures. If there's a grand bargain out there, I don't want to see taxes increase, but this debt problem is huge. If Democrats would come and agree to fundamental entitlement spending reform, obviously the grand bargain would include some type of tax increase. It would harm the economy in the short term, but in the long term, if we don't deal with this debt problem, we're not going to become Greece, but we will become Europe in many respects if we don't deal with it. The bad part of Europe, not the good part of Europe.
Well, the current political climate, and this was before Trump, that we had Paul Ryan pushing grandma off a cliff just because he talked about some type of Medicare reform in different ways.
But Joe, you know what? Politically, that didn't work. I got to tell you,
we didn't do anything. We didn't get anywhere.
Well, I'm saying politically it didn't.
You're going to hear it again, though. You can't. How do you cut it? Since we have election years every 2 years, how do you run on entitlement reform? If you can't get elected, you can't govern.
Well, I didn't say it was easy.
You're leaving.
You're
out of here. Paul Ryan's out of here. I would be too.
Clearly, I didn't crack the code.
Did you call Eric Cantor up? How's my Mollison and Company here? Where are you headed?
Good question. I'll talk to you in January. I'm putting all those conversations off till January.
Your LinkedIn account is like on fire. You send it out.
We'll figure that out. In the meanwhile, I've got to run through the tape on my current job. But my point was, again, Speaker Ryan has at least normalized the idea within the Republican Party. This can be done, and politically, you will not necessarily suffer. I still believe, I hope not naively, that grandparents...
But he will suffer. Look at what's happened to him. I don't think it's been normalized or worked at all.
For what?
No, the idea of premium support in Medicare is an idea that is normalized within the House Republican Conference and within the Republican Senate Conference as well. But ultimately, I've never seen in my 16 years, very few Democrats have ever cared about the debt issue. Not until we try to give tax relief
we're
to
closer to
Americans.
Medicare for everyone than we are from premium assisted Medicare, the way this...
Socialism is alive and well in the Democrat Party, and I at least applaud them for being more transparent on their ultimate goals. And the American people need to take a very careful look, and decisions will be rendered here in just a few weeks.
And, you know, what Obama lost 60 seats. So how do you lose less than 23? It's almost impossible.
Oh, I don't necessarily say that. If you look at the polling data between 2006 and now, it's very different.
What do you...
With the generic reelect, with the right track, wrong track, with which party do you trust most with the economy? So,
do you have a real number on whether the Republicans hold the House, or do you have a separate set of books for what you say on TV about whether they hold the House or not? Do you think they'll hold it?
I'm not running for re-election, so I don't have to please anybody.
Is it
I think it's 50.
You do?
I think it's a coin toss.
Because everybody's at 80-20, all the predicted type stuff.
I think it goes a half a dozen seats either way. I don't see the big blue wave coming. So if I wake up on, I probably won't sleep. But if I did sleep and wake up election morning, I wouldn't be shocked if we kept it. I wouldn't be shocked if we lost it. I would be shocked if the Democrats had a big blue wave and picked up 20, had a 20 or 30 seat majority. Whoever governs, though, is going to have a razor-thin majority in the House. I think the Republican Party is almost assured to take the Senate, so it'll be divided government.
What's your friend Beto going to do with the $38 million?
Beto and I don't spend a whole lot of quality time with each other.
Well, that's got to change. That's got to change.
He's certainly not offering me any of the $30 million. Apparently, he's not offering it to any of his fellow Democratic candidates.
What's the current number that Cruz is up
Senator
significantly?
Cruz is going to get reelected.
He is?
He is
Okay.
going to get reelected. You take that one to the bank. So Beto is going to have to spend his